Hi, I'm Ned Parks with another segment of FlashPoint, a business moment with, this time, 3 business leaders from Northeast Ohio, brought to you by the Office of Corporate and Community Services here at the Kent State Stark branch of Kent State University. Today we have with us this morning, we have Bob Scheer of Scheer's Foods, we have Trina Cutter from WEAO Public Television, and we have Riley Lockridge from ComDoc. We're going to be talking with you today, I'm glad you're here, about succession planning. One of the things that always comes to mind, you hear about succession planning and people call consultants and they want everybody to come in, is this whole thing with let's find a replacement for the boss. But as we've talked before we went on air, it's not just the boss we need to be talking about. Riley, you do quite a bit of succession planning at ComDoc. Could you talk about that just for a moment?
Well, to demystify succession planning, I just reverse the words. I call it planning for success. And if you believe, like I do, that business really is about people and expectations, and that leaders within an organization set the pace for the full organization, then it really requires that you plan for the success of all people within an organization. Certainly you do a little different degree at different levels, but it's important to understand who the people are, what they're about, what have they accomplished, what do they have in their information base and experience base from which to move forward, and how much can you count on them to fulfill different roles that will be opening up at some future date, whether that be from somebody leaving or whether that be from just growth that occurs in an organization.
So attrition, or just because we have to add more people to the organization?
Yes.
Yeah. Trina, you've got an interesting situation. Riley and Bob both have in excess of 600 employees. You've got 27, but you've got thousands of volunteers and freelances and vendors. It's a little different for you, or maybe it's the same?
No, the broadcast industry is really totally different, almost the exact opposite. When we function more like a virtual public television station, and that I mean our programming manager, for instance, lives in Colorado, and through technology, we see him in our conference room on a smart board anytime we want to. We're talking to him. We have the management team in there. We're going over the program schedule. My CFO is located in Indiana, South Bend, Indiana, and through technology again, every single thing that happens at that station with the numbers goes through her computer as well as our computer. So really, our 5 top managers at the station are conveners, facilitators, coordinators of the hundreds of different vendors and different freelancers and different contractors that we use to run the operation. So a succession plan for that type of a role when you're in upper level management is being a convener and a coordinator and a facilitator, is to make sure that those 5 key people at the station know every single aspect of the station. So for instance, in budgeting, line item by line item, every single one of us are in a room going through what's happening in the station, cash reports that come in on a weekly basis, quarterly flexing and everything. And that's the way to do that, so that, you know, beyond succession, if I would leave, you know, anybody could step into my place, any one of those 5 people on the key management team.
So the way you handle yours is through what we would call cross-training and cross-functionality checks.
Absolutely.
Having people understand each other's
Right.
jobs, the person maybe right next to them.
Absolutely.
Bob, you're in the food business, specifically the snack food business. Is there anything special that you need to consider when you think about succession planning in your operation?
We're very fortunate in our manufacturing operations. We have quite a few of our associates who have been with the company for 30, 35 years. And we have a real depth of knowledge. And we run our plant 7 days a week, and 3 shifts a day, and so takes a lot of people, and we're fortunate that we have that depth, and so it is easy to do the succession planning because of the depth of people that we have and the importance of the knowledge that they have for a quality product. But the one thing that I would like to bring up is the fact that I always emphasize when we're going through these procedures that it's important that you check your ego at the door. I think it's human nature for people to feel that, you know, I don't want to give up all the knowledge. I want to keep it so I can still be the best or, have a say in what's going on. But we have found that I've emphasized that because I think it's important. I try to tell people that, if your successor is going to do a better job than you, that's great because that's going to make your life easier going forward and you're going to be able to do your job better. And secondly, the one thing that we emphasize is respect, respect for each other. I think that, just makes life easier to work under that philosophy. And so when we check the egos at the door and we respect each other, I think it makes for a better planning process.
Riley, when he said about checking ego at the door, both you and Trina were shaking your heads up and down. Obviously, this is something you've both dealt with. If you could both respond to that a little bit, I see that as a hot button. Clearly, some people are going to have fear when you start talking about this.
Well, in order to facilitate the developmental process, it really requires great openness. Open eyes, ears, mind, and heart, all in an effort to be the very best you can be on a personal and professional basis. And what I've always found is those people who are able to bring in the food for growth that's brought to them, the developmental feedback, and really internalize it and move with it, and serve as a good example of listening and putting into practice what they hear, are always the best people at sharing feedback with others. And that's because they so greatly appreciate what they've received before, and they recognize that it's just a great gift to another person.
Trina, when you were shaking your head, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking, the 5 key people at the station, any one of them that could replace me, we share a brain, literally. And the quickest way to demystify or to get rid of the ego is to demystify what any one person does in their area of specialty. So when we're sitting in a meeting and we might have the education director that specializes in education, but because he sits through all of the strategic and operational planning and all of the financial planning at the station and stuff, he knows very well what's happening in the programming arena or what's happening in the production arena, engineering arena. So once that mystery is gone, it's like you can fool some of the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but you're not going to fool any one of those 5 managers in there about trying to bring something to the table that they know isn't copacetic or kosher.
Do you have any one of the 3 of you want to answer this? Do you have your succession plan? Is it published? I mean, does everybody know who the heir apparent is to the different positions, or is it more kept under wraps and just the key people know, or how do you go about that?
In our case, I would tell you that just like a person doesn't have a mentor, in my mind he has mentors, plural. There are a few different people who could be there to replace another.
Okay.
When you get to a much higher level and you are there then to share who is going to replace, as we did in July 1 of last year, we announced to all of our people the succession planning at the senior-most level of our organization by moving our vice chair and COO, or our president and COO, up to the vice chair role so that we could name a president and let everyone know who the leader was going to be for the upcoming years.
I can speak from my experience. When I appointed our COO to president, who is my successor as CEO, I did it at our State of the Company. Quarterly, we have State of the Company meetings where we bring all of our associates together and discuss the business and what we're doing, where we're going. And so I get up there, introducing Scott Smith, who's our president now. He was COO then, and telling everybody that, Scott is now in charge. My role is visionary, strategic, and Scott's running the day-to-day operations. Well, it's actually the first time I think anybody ever listened to me. So I go back to my office, and for the next week I don't get one call. Nobody calls me. That was a strange feeling, but it was communicated. We communicated it openly, and I explained. Must have did a really good job of explaining it because, like I said, I didn't get one call. I was like lonely. I was like by myself, and for the first time in 30-some years has that ever been the case. So it is one thing that that when we do, the succession planning, the leadership qualities I think are so important. And I try to emphasize to people, I use the acronym LEADER, listen, educate, accountability, delegate, ethics, and respect. And so I try to take those key elements and put it through, to the whole company. And I think if everybody's on the same page with the same, leadership skills, I think it helps to coordinate the whole effort.
Well, another great flashpoint for our listeners. I appreciate it. Bob Shearer, Shearer's Foods, Trina Cutter from WNEO, WEAO Public Television, Riley Lockwood from Condoc. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.